From catastrophic wildfires to ravaging flash floods, here are 10 of the decade's worst natural disasters. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to They Will Kill You. Hit the like button and request any topics you'd like to learn about in the comments section below. Number 10. Hurricane Florence. In September 2018, this powerful and long-lived hurricane caused extensive damage, particularly in the Carolinas. Within 24 hours of making landfall, Hurricane Florence flooded streets and homes in North Carolina, prompting immediate evacuation. On September 11, 2018, during a White House press briefing, US President Trump stated, "They haven't seen anything like what's coming at us in 25-30 years, maybe ever. It's tremendously big and tremendously wet." Florence was the first major hurricane of the 2018 Atlantic hurricane season. At least 53 deaths were attributed to the storm, which also caused upwards of $13 billion in property damage. Number 9. Hurricane Michael. Low atmospheric pressure that originated in the southwestern Caribbean Sea created Hurricane Michael in October 2018. With wind speeds that reached close to 155 miles per hour, the Category 4 hurricane caused immediate damage along the shoreline. At least 48 deaths have been attributed to the storm before it dissipated on October the 16th. The majority of them occurring in the US, with Florida being the most affected area in terms of casualties. When it comes to property damage, early estimates indicate that it exceeded $6.1 billion. Central America experienced extensive flooding, and in Cuba, more than 200,000 people were left without power. In Florida, cities like Mexico Beach and Panama City experienced catastrophic damage as the extreme winds felled trees and flattened numerous houses. Number 8. 2018 Attica wildfires. During the 2018 European heat wave, a series of catastrophic wildfires hit the coastal areas of Attica in Greece. The disaster would become the second deadliest wildfire of the 21st century. The fire started in July 2018, spreading rapidly, and containment proved challenging. Greece had to deploy hundreds of firefighters and fire engines, as well as its entire fleet of firefighting aircraft. 27 other countries offered their support in various forms, from water tanker planes and rescue forces to financial aid. The village of Mati was where the disaster hit the hardest. Rescuers discovered 26 bodies trapped, apparently hugging each other as they died only several feet from the water. A boat that rescued people from a hotel in Mati subsequently capsized and 10 people drowned. By September 12th, the combined victim count from all the wildfires was placed at 99 people. It was a period of mourning across the Greek state, with flags being flown at half-mast atop the Greek parliament and the Acropolis. Number 7. 2018 Volcán de Fuego eruption. On Sunday, June 3, 2018, a series of volcanic eruptions and pyroclastic flows from Guatemala's Volcán de Fuego claimed at least 159 lives. An additional 57 people were injured, while 256 others were declared missing. The severe burn injuries meant that some of the bodies that were recovered could only be identified by DNA or anthropological methods. By the middle of June 2018, only half of the cases that had entered the morgue had been identified. The ash column rose to a height of 9.3 miles. Fast-moving clouds of volcanic matter and ash, known as pyroclastic flows, swept through the towns and villages south of the volcano, causing most of the casualties and property damage. The country's primary airport was shut down, and thousands of people had to be evacuated from the areas near the eruption. Number 6. Black Saturday bushfires. The events of February 7, 2009 and their aftermath will live forever in Australian memory as Black Saturday. A series of bushfires killed 180 people, injured hundreds others, and ravaged around 1,100,000 acres of land in the worst disaster of its type to ever hit the country. On Black Saturday, 400 individual fires were recorded across the Australian state of Victoria. Many of them are believed to have been caused by all-time record temperatures, which in Melbourne hit 115.5 Fahrenheit. The authorities found that some of the fires were purposefully lit by arsonists, and a number of arrests were made. Other suspected sources included power lines, machinery, or lighting. Number 5. 2018 Sulawesi earthquake and tsunami. An earthquake with a magnitude of 7.5 struck the province of Central Sulawesi, Indonesia, in late September 2018. The epicenter was approximately 48 miles from the provincial capital of Palu. Prior to the event, there was a sequence of foreshocks, including a tremor that was measured at 6.1. The main shock also triggered a tsunami with a height that reached 23 feet, which swept through several settlements, including Palu. There were also mud flows which submerged numerous buildings, causing hundreds of deaths. A village just outside the provincial capital called Balaroa was almost completely swallowed by the mud, along with its 1,747 houses. In Palu, an 8-story hotel as well as a shopping center both collapsed, trapping many people. The earthquake and the other natural disasters it caused yielded a death toll that reportedly surpassed 2,100. Thousands of others were injured or declared missing. Number 4. 2017 Atlantic hurricane season. It was difficult to focus on only one of the devastating natural disasters that took place during the 2017 Atlantic hurricane season. It was the deadliest season since 2005, and the total number of victims was placed at 3,361. Thousands of others were injured. It was also the costliest hurricane season ever, with around $282 billion in property damage. There were 10 hurricanes during the 2017 season, and amazingly, they all occurred in a row. Harvey, Irma, and Maria were the worst out of all of them, and they were responsible for almost all of the damage. Irma and Maria were both Category 5 hurricanes, which is the highest on the current scale. They made landfall within 2 weeks of each other, and the latter had recorded wind speeds of a staggering 175 miles per hour. Some areas like the Leeward Islands, for example, hadn't even recovered from Irma when Maria made landfall. Even though it was only a Category 1 hurricane, Nate was unusually fast-moving and caused massive flooding in Central America. The hurricane would later become known as the costliest natural disaster in the history of Costa Rica. Number 3. 2010 Russian wildfires. In the summer of 2010, hundreds of wildfires broke out in Russia, mainly in the west of the country. The fires were attributed to what was described as the hottest summer in Russian history, and the record-high temperatures were regarded by many as a consequence of climate change. President Dmitry Medvedev declared a state of emergency in several regions. Many of the areas that weren't directly affected by the wildfires faced the risk of crop failures because of the drought. The wildfires burned down 740,000 acres of land. In extinguishing the fires, the country received international help from countries like France, Germany, Italy, Finland, China, and many others. There were also numerous volunteers that took part in the firefighting, which, in some cases, proved faster and more effective than official assistance. The unprecedented heat wave, combined with the heavy smog from the fires, which blanketed several urban areas, strained Russia's healthcare system. Almost 57,000 lives were lost. Number 2. 2010 Haiti earthquake. The 2010 Haiti earthquake was the most devastating event of its kind to hit the region in 200 years, and it left the island nation in shambles. The earthquake had a catastrophic magnitude of 7.0, and it occurred on January 12, 2010. By the 24th, at least 52 aftershocks of varying intensity had been recorded. Death toll estimates range from 100,000 to 160,000, although according to the Haitian government, the figures were double that. Because the morgues were full and there was a fear that disease might spread, thousands of casualties were buried in mass graves. The densely populated capital city of Port-au-Prince was only a few miles from the earthquake's epicenter. Numerous government structures were damaged, including the Parliament building and the presidential palace. At the time of the disaster, Haiti lacked a national building code, so many of the buildings were shoddily built. Around 895,000 Haitians were left homeless. Even before the earthquake struck, Haiti was ranked as one of the poorest nations in the Western Hemisphere, with 80% of its citizens living in poverty. An international relief operation was launched with billions being raised by governments and individuals around the world. Number 1. Mallorca flash flood. In October 2018, at least 12 people lost their lives after torrential rains wrought havoc on San Florence and other small towns on the Spanish island of Mallorca. Over the course of just 2 hours, more than 9 inches of rain fell in the area, triggering deadly flash floods. Meteorologists claimed that it was very difficult to forecast an event of this magnitude, the likelihood of it occurring being once in 1,000 years. The flood ravaged the small towns, taking down telephone lines, dragging cars and trapping people in their houses. Many of them had no other choice but to wait for rescue on balconies or rooftops. According to El Paz, the effects of the floods were amplified by the geography of the land and the infrastructure. Since most of the affected area is surrounded by steep mountains, they acted like a ramp through which humid air fed the storm at the summit. Some of the old homes were built next to watercourses. The concrete channel, built just outside San Florence, was less resistant to water than the natural terrain, so it enabled the current to pick up speed. Rescue efforts were hindered as roads and bridges were made impassable by the fast-moving current, which was carrying a large amount of mud and tree trunks. Thanks for watching. Which natural disaster do you think was the most devastating? Let us know in the comments section below.